Hey guys. So this is getting kind of a late post this evening because right as I was about to start recording, my laptop was all, hey guys, let's update right now. And then I swore at it, which never helps, but so long story short, this is going up a bit behind schedule. But I'm sure that in some time zone somewhere it is still Tuesday, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that it counts. um, not much terribly exciting has been happening within the past 7 days. I made friends with a cat today. That was actually a lot more exciting than one would usually think, because I'm what the young folks would call a dog person. But yeah, so there's this cat that chills out in the bio lab at my school, and it was just kind of hanging out by one of the computer monitors today that I was using, and it decided to come chill out in my lap for a little while and then actually followed me into the lab building where I was doing my activity and made a beeline straight for me again. For some reason, they can, I don't know. It's like they're trying to convert me or something from being a dog person. I don't know. It's mildly disconcerting, but any unease is soon overwhelmed by fuzzy adorableness. So yeah, my boy thing Eli was rather proud of me. So yeah, um, I finally got the camera angle fixed, so now you won't be reading my wall backwards anymore. Yay! Um, so yeah, there actually are mildly interesting things back here. Um, there's Bruce Springsteen behind me. Say hi to Bruce, or don't actually, because he can't hear you, because he's a piece of paper from a magazine. Um, but yeah, so I don't have a whole hell of a lot of stuff to talk about today, so I'm just going to dive right into Andy's question about some sort of marvelous foodstuffs that I've eaten. Um, the best meal, hands down, that I've ever had is a bit strange, so hear me out before you judge. But there's this little restaurant down a little ways from my house over by Boeing Field, and it's called the Hangar because hardy har har because it's so close to Boeing. But so it used to be someone's house, and then they made it into a restaurant, and now it's really awesome. And they have, I swear to God, the best coffee in Seattle, which is really saying something, you know. But so they have this breakfasty lunch-ish thing. It's called the Triple B, and it consists of a waffle topped with bacon, basil, and brie with maple syrup. And when you look at it on the menu, it sounds unappetizing, shall we say. But it's actually a fortuitous little jump of fate, actually, because the first day I went there, I had ordered something else, and they happened to be out of the key ingredient, and so the waitress recommended the Triple B, and I rather hesitantly tried it, and it changed my life. But yeah, it's all sorts of crunchy and creamy and salty and sweet and all those other really nice alliterative taste pairings that you hear on the Food Network all the time. What? No, I'm not a Food Network nerd, not at all. But yeah, so that's amazing. If you're ever in the Seattle metro area, um, you should meet up and I will take you there and you can experience the Triple B for yourself and the good coffee. The amazing coffee. Um, so that's that. Um, let's see. Oh, so I was going to talk a little bit about there was a comment on the first video I posted of a friend of mine from camp, Nick, who asked about a comment that I had made about liking to study the global dialects of killer whales, and so I was going to expound a little bit on that. So basically, I'm going to use the orcas of Puget Sound as an example. So all over the world, there's all these different populations of orca, and they're each genetically distinct, and they each have their own dialect. For example, here in Puget Sound, we've got the two main groups that we get are resident orcas, which are only fish eaters. They really like salmon, and they hang out in really large matriarchal family groups and tend to only stay in one specific home range. And then there's transients, which usually you don't find them in more than 2 to 5. And I mean, they'll go everywhere up and down the West Coast, just wherever the hell they want to go. But yeah, so obviously the main difference between these two groups is in their feeding patterns. And these resident orcas, these fish eaters, they don't really need to worry about being too quiet. There's lots of squeaking and squawking and grunting and bubbling, and they just, I mean, they're kind of like a group of teenagers. You get them together and they don't shut up. But so yeah, they're very social and very playful and very, very loud. But then you take a look at the transients, on the other hand, and they are essentially vocal ninjas. I mean, they don't speak unless they have to, and when they do speak, it's the tone is, how do I phrase this? Well, over time, they've their voices have adapted to sort of blend into the ambient noise. So when they do vocalize, it tends to sound like water bouncing off of rocks or something along those lines. So it's tremendously interesting. And I mean, it's actually gotten to the point where these two distinct populations of orca haven't interbred in, I want to say the last genetic test showed around 10,000 years. So, I mean, they're definitely at least distinct subspecies, if not different species entirely. The jury is still kind of out on that. I know recently there was some work done with the Antarctic orca populations. There's 3 of those, and they determined from looking at mitochondrial DNA that they could very well be distinct species. But yeah, so this is a common thing all over the world. I mean, orcas are found in every ocean, and each population has its own culture, has its own dialect. I mean, if you took an orca from New Zealand and introduced it to an orca from Ireland, they wouldn't know what the hell the other one was talking about. They've had that problem in captivity sometimes, where actually, they'll have 2 orcas in there from totally different parts of the world. This was a problem especially in the 70s when taking wild orcas was still a totally acceptable thing to do. And, it's a culture clash, essentially. It's really interesting. If you want to know more about this sort of thing, National Geographic had a really nice article on it a couple of years ago. And let's see, Ingrid Visser does some really cool work on shark-eating New Zealand orcas. Ken Balcom and Graham Ellis do a lot of really interesting work up around here in the Puget Sound area, and San Juans, so the whole Salish Sea area, that region. And then Alex Morton has been tracking the northern residents, so the Canadian orcas, for, I'm going to say at least a couple decades now. So yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff out there. So I would highly recommend, if that's your thing at all, check it out. It's cool. Holy crap, this is 9.5 minutes long already. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, I should wrap this up, and I should go to sleep, because clearly I need to do that. Articulate, I am not it. But, so, question. Oh, so one question that always got a lot of really interesting response at NBTSC was, if you could domesticate any animal, extinct or extant, what would you domesticate? So, yeah, I guess I will bid you adieu for the evening, and I'm gonna go to bed, because that sounds like fun. So I will talk to you cats next Tuesday.